Hello, so Advanced Spreadsheets continues to look at some of the tricky areas. We're using the pre-online revision work files to do this and the paper, just so you've got something to follow. And so today we're dealing with question 17, which I'm creating a macro. So we're going to use the food worksheet, which is in the revision workbook, still continuing with that. And we're going to create a macro called footer that's applied to this workbook. And this macro will insert the file path into the left section and page numbers into the right section of the footer. Okay, so let's do this together. So follow. So once again, using the Spreadsheets pre-online revision work files, double click on the revision workbook, and in here we can find the food worksheet that we need to do the macro. So remember, if we look at the sheet first of all, some things we need to do before we start. So in our workbook, we have the developer tab available, so we can use our macro area here, our code area. So if you're at home or elsewhere and you haven't got this developer tab, let's go and find out how we get it. So we click on File, onto Options, Customize ribbon, and make sure that you tick the developer area there and then OK. And then you can see this area here. Once we start recording, then a square will appear down here, and that will enable us to stop the macro wherever we're clicking. Another thing to do before we start a macro, particularly in a test environment, is to actually get a feel about what it is it's asking us to do. So to explore where the feature is and what we're doing and how we're doing it, but obviously not doing it until we're inside the macro and recording it there. So in this one, we're talking about, it's asking us to do things with a footer. So we can't see our footer here. We can't see any sections. So we could use a page layout, or we could go through the insert the long way and find our way into the header and footer. But to be honest, the best way is just to go to page layout so that I can see my footer sections already there, ready for me to use within the macro. So onto the developer tab, and let's start our macro. So let's click record macro and name it footer. It is in this workbook, so we do keep it just as it is by default, accept that default. When I click on OK, then obviously the macro will start recording, and I'll show you once again the square down here for stopping. So once I say OK, there it is there to stop the recording when it's ready. So now I'm actually going to do the macro. So I'm going into my footer, I'm going into the right section, and I'm going to insert the file path. Notice that the design tab has come up on the ribbon because I'm in the footer. So I'm going to put the file path in, then select the right section, because now I need to put the automatic page number in. So that then if I click away, all those things are automatically in there, and then I stop the macro. Now, a lot of people go on to do, because it says talks about saving it, the file with the same name, or sometimes in the exam it might ask you to save with a macro enabled save type. So make sure that you don't continue and go to save except while you're still in the macro. That's the most common thing in this. But remember, there's nothing you can't do in a macro. Explore it, make yourself feel comfortable, so once you start clicking around, then you know that you've done it.